found the GroomPod. Welcome to our virtual salon. My name is Susie, and I'm your host. I'm a mobile groomer from Seattle, Washington, and anybody who knows me will tell you I love to talk, especially about my job. And one of my favorite people to talk to is my friend and mentor and the co-star of this show, the curator of ingredients, Miss Barbara Berg.
Happy Sunday. Happy day. We've got a great visitor today. I can't wait to get into it.
Hello.
Here's Dave Campanella with us. So welcome to episode 441 of the GroomPod, recorded on March 16th, 2025 in Snohomish, Washington, Greenville, South Carolina, and someplace in Kentucky that I can never remember where it is.
Versailles.
Thank you. And I would mispronounce it. Versailles, Kentucky. This podcast is brought to you by our kind sponsors, Best Shot, Show Season, Precision Sharp, Grumor, and Stasco. And if you'd like to support the show or tip our podcasters, you can go to the website, thegroompod.com, and use the donation button to donate to Barbara, or join us on Patreon. This week on the GroomPod, we're going to tackle the conditioning before washing question that pops up pretty regularly on the podcast discussion group. So this week's What's New is brought to you by Grumor Software. If you haven't found Grumor, you're missing out. Grumor is an all-in-one software solution for your grooming business. Whether you are a solo mobile groomer or manage several shops, Grumor has everything you need. 24-hour online booking and forms, routing, credit card processing, reminders, Google Calendar and QuickBooks integration, and so much more. And the best customer service anywhere. Shop mobile or house call, Grumor has you covered. And they're giving us a free month. Just enter GroomPod22 in the coupon code. I want to start this off, Dave, by saying congratulations on making it to Westminster. And tell me about it. Was it fun?
Well, my wife Tracy made it to Westminster. And what was especially fun about that is she had a dog and a bitch competing with under the Goodfellas kennel name. So that's kind of a little bit of bragging rights there, I guess you could say. And she had a lot of fun. What made it special for Tracy was that she had two relatively new carry people that were both owner handlers. So they were handling them in the ring, because the hard part about being a breeder is keeping the legacy going and getting new blood, because people are into online gaming and non-reality sports. And she had a lot of fun. But the highlight of that time was the days leading up to them showing. They went to all the iconic sites in New York, and they happened to sneak on a live broadcast of Fox and Friends in the morning with the weather lady. And they had a lot of fun. And what Tracy said that stood out about New York was everybody there was just so welcoming to the dogs. They totally got it. And they were also very excited to have the show back at Madison Square Garden. That was a big deal. And other than a few bad cabbie experiences, everywhere else was wonderful. And I'm told by people that in the summertime and in the springtime, especially when you go to New York, the amount of dog owners and dogs around is just overwhelming. So I never knew that. So people of New York were very welcoming and they love their dogs. There you go.
That's interesting. I would never get, although we know Jorge Benderowski, I can't pronounce his last name right. You can't call him. He is mobile, but he just does it in your home. He's an in-your-home groomer in New York City, and he does really well for himself. So we know they're there. They have dogs, and they are willing to pay big prices for good grooming.
That's correct. But she had a blast, and this being her first time, she's going to be back and she'll be ready. So it was a good experience.
Cool. Well, I'll take this fine moment to say house call or in-home grooming is definitely mobile grooming. but all mobile groomers are not house call groomers. So it kind of works one way, but not the other way. So we definitely include house call groomers as mobile groomers because they move from house to house and location to location. For practical purposes, we're the same. It's just the location of the actual bath and grooming that differs. And in their case, differs every single groom. In my case, the location outside differs, but the location inside stays the same. I was a house call groomer for a while and I really did enjoy it. But, I talk too much. So being inside with the people, that's not such a good thing for me.
But in New York City, it would be hell to have a mobile grooming unit and park for every customer. It would be a nightmare. You would be shuffling dogs blocks and blocks away from their home anyway. So you might as well be an in-home and shuffle yourself and your equipment. It makes more sense.
I had an epiphany just now. I think I'm a little early, but with all this progress we're making with artificial intelligence and drones, can you imagine a crate showing up at your door and you put your dog in the crate and then it flies over to the groomers and she does her thing and then she sends it back? That sounds crazy, but if they can land rockets vertically, they can do anything.
What have we learned if we haven't learned that something that sounds crazy today is just reality tomorrow? You can't brush it off. It could happen.
Drone groomers. We could start a whole new drone groomer network.
I like it.
Right.
I think I would have the most fun choosing how I would get my stuff inside and out. Like, what kind of a backpack would I use? What kind of a cart would I take? Because you wouldn't want to have to go back and forth to your car if you were doing in-home grooming in New York City. Wow. Yet another topic we'll have to explore on the groom. Maybe we can get Jorge on here to tell us about that.
Yeah, we should. We should. He's great. Yeah, let's do that.
So, Dave.
Yes.
I got the chance to smell, and Barbara too, the new Sweet Magnolia scent from the Sentiment line at Best Shot. How's it going?
What you guys think?
I liked it.
Yeah, it's catching on. When you introduce a product, you got to dig in and commit to it and give it some time. And we just started doing some more aggressive advertising starting in January, and you'll see it throughout the year. But it's catching on, and everybody who smells it loves it, and everybody who tries it loves it. If you're a sentiment spa person and you like the products and the finish it leaves, you got another really nice fragrance to play with. But it's been doing well, and we expect it to continue to grow. But when you have scents, you got to change them up from time to time. What's funny is we haven't retired any scents yet, so we're up to 24 different fragrances. But it's fun. The Sentiment Spa is kind of our gateway drug into the Ultramax and the 3-Step and all the Best Shot products, because people love smells, and that's a whole different marketing. Thank you for asking. It's off to a very strong start, and people will be seeing and hearing more about it. And thank you guys for the kind words.
You bet.
Do you want my vote? What to get rid of?
I'm always open.
I don't like the lavender that you changed to. I thought the old lavender was okay. It wasn't the best, but the new lavender smells like, to me, floor cleaner. And I don't like it. And I used to love it.
You want to know what's funny? Since we switched to that fragrance, we're up considerably on it.
Oh, so it's just me.
Those are tough fragrances like peppermint spearmint, lavender, cinnamons, baby powders. There's a definite niche for them, but people got different spins for it. When I think of baby powder, I think dirty diapers, and I always avoid the production when they're making that stuff. Some of the girls like it, but like Mike Gallagher, our owner, and myself, we can't stand it. But that's not why you do it. You do it because there's a loyal following out there. But I hear what you're saying. It's always a decision you have to make. And it's interesting the way we're all wired differently. I wish they could narrow down the science to where we specifically knew the type of audience. Maybe someday with artificial intelligence and all this other stuff, we'll be able to plug in a fragrance and get an accurate read of the demand.
So when did this lavender change?
I'm going to say probably 2 years ago. It changed during COVID.
I always liked the lavender cinnamon.
Mm-hmm.
It was my favorite lavender because sometimes for me, lavender smells a little grandma,
Mm-hmm.
but that one didn't get that reaction from me. I really liked it.
Yeah.
Send me some of the new lavender.
I'll send you some more and get your take on it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I had to fill in for an associate at the Louisville Dog Show for the previous days, and we get the fragrances out there, and people just stop galore because there's 24 cents and it's fun to watch. And they always ask the same question: what's the popular selling fragrance? And as a company, I would say the Mandarin Jasmine Honey is very popular. But when you're at a show and people are shopping for fragrances, you could go to a show and everybody wants cinnamon. I hate cinnamon. Or everybody wants the fruity smell. We've had shows where we would sell our soft mimosa nectar, which is like a twilight wood scent. And then we'll get days where we sell out of grapefruit or we sell out of peppermint. It's so unpredictable. And I guess that's one of the reasons we figured out a way of how to manufacture and make sense out of the chaos of having 24 different scents. But the reason why we do it is because we're trying to appeal to as many people as possible. And like I said, that's our gateway drug into checking out the rest of the line. And it's been working. Always sharing marketing and secrets with you guys.
Well, we love to get the inside scope on
Yep.
stuff. It gives us a depth that we don't have without you, Dave.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for your openness about that. It's really cool.
And also, I'm never offended if somebody doesn't like the way something smells. I'm more interested in how something performs. Now, if you've got something that smells really awful and the majority of people are just turned off about it, then that gets our attention because, we want people to try it. But we know once they try the product and they use it, and especially when you're dealing with professionals, you can't lie about results. People can see what they want and everybody has their own preference. So, yep.
I also love that orchid.
Yeah, that's been doing really well. And that was one of those deals where we didn't reinvent the wheel. We're always looking to see what's trending. And everybody does laundry. And there was what was that? Snuggles had a couple years back had a wild orchid vanilla, and we started testing that and getting people's opinions, and everybody fell in love with that. So we tried to mimic it as close as we could, which is, again, that's a whole nother challenge in and of itself.
But it's the lemon vanilla that I use on my own hair.
That's still one of the popular ones. If you were to do surveys, people love vanillas, they love lemons. And if you can come up with a winning blend, then it's timeless. They never go out of style.
What else is new going on at the factory?
I don't know if I mentioned in previous episodes, we just bought the place next to us because we were running out of room. So we bought some more time. We have some more property and some more warehouse and production space. So we're this spring and summer, we're looking to integrate that.
Little applause for you.
We've got it all prepped.
Cool.
Ordering some bigger tanks for some bigger production runs and things. But that's exciting. That certainly is exciting because there were days where we'd be making stuff and it's like business is going really good and you're happy, but you're like thinking, man, we need a bigger boat. It was getting rough. So that was very exciting. And let's see, as far as products this year, this is a carryover from last. The hypoallergenic, when we pulled the scent out of the Ultramax Clarify, that was dead on. We've like triple sales on that product. So, and we can't do that without listening. That was a good decision. And then the medicated, the MED conditioner's doing well. And then finally, I'm going to give it a year to see where it goes. But for years, we had our topical spray, and I was always busy marketing other products. So that product just sat there, kind of like the forgotten child. What people don't realize about that product, it's for itching, and hot spots and things like that. But we use one of the same silicone copolymers in there that's in a lot of our finishing sprays. And that particular ingredient they use in anti-itch creams and ointments and topicals and sprays, because there's actually clinical research on it reducing skin spasms, which is a fancy way of saying itching. But because it's a silicone, if think of all those hot spots that get all gooey and they get matted, that product is great for dematting messy dogs like that. And I'm thinking, duh, they're staring me in the face. What are we known for? And I've had customers telling me, "Oh, that's the way I've always used that as a detangling spray." And I'm like, "What?" So I finally tuned in, and that product we're expecting is going to soar after kind of flatlining for so long. So does that sound boring? Boring marketing stuff.
No, that sounds good. I like topical applications where you can be precise and just target a certain area that's bothering a dog. And I think that's good. And it's handier for people at home because they don't have to do a whole submerge the dog in the tub thing in order to get some relief from it.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. And I would definitely support that.
Yeah. And we really pushed. It took us probably 3 years, but if you go back to previous episodes, we've talked about a healing conditioner. And by coming out with the conditioner and we got the chlorhexidine and the traditional herbal or botanical healing shampoo, we really got a full line now. And I think that it just makes sense. And I think people are going to use it and they're going to like it more and more. So far, so good. So that we seem to sell out of the conditioner when we go to the trade shows because everybody's hearing about it. And I think they hear about it from you guys. So thank you.
Dave, it's 10 years. We're in our 10th year.
Gosh, where does it go?
Can you believe it?
No, it goes by too fast. I look in the mirror and I get worried because did you ever see that? What was that movie? Oh gosh, it was the scary movie where the guy looks in the mirror and he starts pulling away at his face, and it's getting older, and he pulls all the skin off his face. Every time I look in the mirror, I feel like I'm that old guy. I keep getting older. So, but anyway, too much information.
This kid that you don't want to look in the mirror anymore at all.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think of myself as I remember myself 10 years ago.
Yeah, and then people, I used to enjoy looking at photos, but now I don't want to look at them because I'm always disappointed in my pictures. But anyway, it's just like, man, I've gained a lot of weight there. Ooh, that shirt doesn't look good. I'm not vain or anything.
Where'd that extra chin come from? That's what I'm always getting.
My ears are getting bigger, but my wife tells me I don't listen. I don't get it. But anyway.
Funny how that works. Okay, well, let's take a break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about conditioning before washing.
Yes.
Show Season has a great enzymatic cleaner called Kennel Fresh. And you dilute it with warm water and it smells good, and then it evaporates to be a deodorant. As the Kennel Fresh dries, it's enzymatic, it eats the bacteria and the odor source. So it's really good stuff. You can use it indoors or out.
Find it at your local distributors or showseasongrooming.com.
The GroomPod and Precision Sharp would like to invite you to check out the newest precise cut shear called Lynx. Its patented design features a thumb ring that slides the length of the handle for perfect ergonomic placement of your thumb. Slide it, lock it into place, and get your best grooms on. Check it out at precisionsharp.com. Ready, groomers? Here comes our first appointment. It seems like topics cycle through, and this is one of those topics that repeatedly comes back into the grooming news, if you will, and that is conditioning before washing. So, Barbara, why don't you start us off by giving us a little history on where did this whole thing come from?
My perception is that conditioning before washing came from the beauty industry, the hairdressing industry, and it was a protocol that was used for coloring, for minimizing the damage caused by the partly alkaline chemicals that were involved in hair coloring. So the hair coloring agents and products of the 70s, 80s, 90s were very high in pH. They tended to be rather brutal on the hair, and they involved really like opening the hair cuticle so that the color could then be installed inside the hair shaft. That was the idea. But because they were so harsh and rough on the hair, they would often damage the hair as they applied the color. So the protocol was established to do a deep conditioning treatment before coloring the hair. And that became the model, which was then later reinvented as a dog grooming protocol to minimize damage in the tub while bathing our dogs. It made sense 20, 30, 40 years ago. It makes less sense today with today's products. Even today's hair coloring products are not nearly as caustic and alkaline as they were before, because they're more or less incorporating conditioners within the hair coloring products. So you're conditioning as you color. But this idea of closed, open, closed, which is referring to the hair cuticle, closing the hair cuticle, opening it for cleaning or depositing color, and closing it again, has caught on. It's been kind of marketed to groomers. And because it was actually oversimplified terrifically, and that caught people's attention. The idea of opening and closing the hair cuticle was understandable to groomers, even though that's very unrealistic. We really don't want to rip the hair cuticle open and then try to pat it down again and close it. Another thought that I have about it is that if you put conditioner on dirty hair, you're sealing in dirt and oils that you want to remove. So you're actually just increasing the job of the hair shampoo that follows and making it harder to get a dog really clean with a single shampoo. I don't know how you feel about it, Dave, but I think it's just kind of it's been a concept that's overused, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're dead on. And as you were kind of going through the history, which I'm glad you did, because a lot of the things that we say and a lot of the narratives in the pet industry and hair care products and in grooming is trickle down from the human industry. And when you go back to the 70s, 80s, 90s, what happened is most women, and I don't have an exact statistic, but I got to think it holds true today. Most women at some point, they color their hair. And, the conditioning, in addition to what you said, Barbara, was also to retain the color, because you can use something harsh that can wash it out, but you can also kind of hold it in. And right around that time, you started getting all this negative stuff about sulfates. And today, when you turn on the television and you see cute little Drew Barrymore, she's such a cutie, and she's doing a TV ad for Garnier, and she's wearing a little bee outfit, and she's got her fluffy little rabbit because it's a cruelty free. At the end of this commercial, and she's wearing the bee outfit because they're like competing with Burt's Bees with some honey, blah, 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 claims ingredient crap, clever marketing. But at the end, what do they say? Sulfate free, silicone free, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of this non harsh, whatever, it's always one of five things that they pick on. And that stigma is totally out of context. Harsh is a relative term. So people will say certain detergents are harsher than others. And when you say harsh, it's like, oh, that was harsh, like it's bad. But they never explain with methodology and with dilution and other things. There's other ways of addressing these things. Getting back, I'm digressing. I catch myself doing that. Getting back to the open conditioner, as it trickled down into the grooming industry, at first it really kind of pissed me off. I'm just being honest, because most groomers didn't even understand how shampoo works. And now you're telling them the condition
Right.
first, and they don't. They see the results, and the results that they were seeing was they went from using one shampoo because they were trying to save money, or a 2-in-1 shampoo, right, Barbara? Let's save a step. Now they're conditioning, then they shampoo, and then they're using a conditioner. So they went from using no conditioners to using two, and they can see the results. Then I realized, this is a good thing because people are seeing the benefits about conditioning. Cleaning is the easy part. If you want to go for finish effect, if you want to go for repairing damage, tangles, shedding, if you want to make it shine, if you want to dry them faster, it's all about conditioners. So this was a good thing. And the other thing that I just had to take a step back and suck it in and embrace and ride the wave was that for the first time, groomers were talking about these things along the hair shaft called cuticle scales. And I'm like, well, this is a good thing. Okay. Now, for me, I'm going to mix a little marketing into it where I saw an opportunity. The first thing that upset me was that people don't realize 99% of the shampoos they're using are acidic. They're not going to open the cuticles. Number two is you don't need to open the cuticles to clean the hair. That's just a fact. It's kind of an outdated 50s term that they used to teach before I think they had all the science and the electron microscopy and the other magnification and things that they could do to study hair that they have today.
That really changed the whole scene, is when they came up with those microscopes that can actually get so close that we can see what's going on.
One of the things that they did is that they overgeneralized what was seen instead of really understanding lifting of the hair cuticle. We ended up with these pine cone cartoon images.
Yep.
That it makes it seem as though all of the hair cuticles open up at one time and all become flower-like or pine cone-like, and then they all shut at the same time, which probably is very unrealistic.
It truly is.
The scanning electron microscope pictures are hard to come by. It's an expensive technology.
It's expensive.
As you know, you fiddled around with some of that in-house. Drawings and replications help to the extent that you interpret them correctly, which is often, like just mistaken for groomers. The hair cuticle is not a hinged door.
That's correct.
You really want to minimize the extent to which it's lifted, because when it's lifted, it's stretching and loosening the glue that holds the cuticle down.
Yep.
And it's very hard to replace that permanently. Then you're tied into having to condition all the time. I digress.
And to your point, what's interesting, two things come to mind, is when you start looking at hair types, certain hair types, I call them low porosity coats, meaning they don't open that much. A lot of your Arctic breeds and, Huskies and whatnot, they have what they call high porosity coats. If you did look at them under the microscope, they open up not quite like a pine coat, but they clearly open up.
Yeah, it's obvious. It's real obvious.
Many coat types don't quite do that, especially the finer types. And what came to mind as you were talking, I remember, and I'll have to find them, I came across some old 1970s diagrams of hair, and they're actually showing the cuticles opening. And I'm thinking, that's a lie, because that was a marketer taking the terminology. But anyway.
So my thought is this. from coming from a mechanical person, because I'm a mechanical engineer kind of a brain, is that when you're moving something that is supposed to be held tight together, you weaken the hinge area. And there's no way you're not weakening the hinge area, which means that if you're trying to move that, what we imagine is a shingle away from the roof and then back to the roof and then away from the roof, eventually it's not going to do anything but stay away from the roof.
Really doesn't have a hinge.
Yep. And to add to what you're saying, in order for the cuticles to lift, you have to soften the hair. And that gets very touchy. Now you know why cosmetologists have to get a license, because when they're coloring hair, for example, they could really mess you up big time. But with that said, what I saw as an opportunity in marketing, which was clever, and I hope other people jump on this bandwagon too, I'm not the only one, is I started referring to the way Best Shot's 3-step worked as close, meaning we use an acidic shampoo, so it's influencing the cuticle. We're not opening it. And then conditioning, I call that, what do I call it? I call that further close. And then when you finish with a finishing spray, because the finishing sprays, often many of them out there, including some of show season, I'm plugging another one of your sponsors because I like those guys. When you use the 3rd step, that'll keep them closed for an extended period. I call that fully closed. So close further, fully close. That's more of a realistic visual of what you're trying to achieve as a professional groomer when applying hair care science in the tub. You're treating that coat to get it smooth. And when you smooth the coat, it's a domino effect. You've heard me say before, you dry faster, they shine. The shedding undercoat isn't trapped in the cuticles like Velcro. It's easier to detangle, etc. But with that said, there's times where if you're intimate with the product, if you have a show dog or a dog's coat that is well maintained, or it's what I call a smooth coat, or the bully breeds, they don't have a lot of undercoat, or I think of a smooth coated dachshund. If you want to use a conditioner first and follow it up with a shampoo, and you like the net finish that's left behind in doing that, more credit to you. You're not hurting anything.
You're just using more conditioner.
Yeah.
There are times when you want to use a conditioner first rather than after. If it's a very fragile, old coat or something, I mean, and you're using a fairly moderate shampoo, then, go ahead and use the conditioner first if it works. If something works, you should use it. And you should be aware of what works. But we just kind of tend to listen to some authoritative marketers. Except other than Dave Campanella.
You don't have to agree with everything I say.
Well, I don't agree with everything you say, but I think that I always agree with the way that you say it. And I think there's a time and a place for everything. I think a before shampoo conditioning and a before and after shampoo conditioning, there's a place for that, especially with a damaged coat, a really damaged coat. Like our 14-year-old bearded collie in full coat. That dog needs a protein treatment, which is a form of conditioning, a protein treatment before the bath, and a good strong conditioning treatment after the bath. And what I love about Best Shot that I didn't get for the first few years that I used the product is the spray. And I think that your spray is the trickiest thing to market, because people don't understand that if they do a rinse through conditioning, why should they use a spray? I just learned the hard way by not doing it for a few years and then doing it, that it can make a huge difference. That final spray on top of that conditioned coat, really, that especially if you're spraying as you blow dry and comb out, it just helps everything happen.
I agree.
And it was my hardest thing to teach my bath personnel to do. because I would try to get everybody to spray after they did the conditioning, and as they dried and brushed out a full coat, I would often fail. They just wouldn't obey me. Well, of course, that was my own problem.
Yep.
If I could do it all over again, I'd be a bossier boss.
You don't have it in
I
you.
don't have it in me. If I can't explain it to you, and if explaining it isn't going to work, then okay, go ahead, take longer time.
Yep.
I remember, gosh, it's probably been, time goes so fast, 5 or 6 years ago, when WEN came out with some advertising about doing the conditioning first and then the shampooing. And Barbara, you bought the products. How did it work for you?
Oh no, I hate that product. And in fact, those WEN products got run out of Dodge because they caused so many problems, because they had all of these botanicals in there that caused reactions and stuff. That was a failure. It worked for a while and it was a big seller, and then it started just crumbling from within because they had a lot of complaints about negative effects, poor performance of the product overall. I had some clients that used it. Their hair always looked horrible.
Yep.
They really recommended conditioning instead of shampooing.
Yep.
Stringy hair on these men, and they were also proud that they were using this WEN stuff.
And see, that's a fatal flaw. What happens is there was a place for that product, but they sold it as everybody can use it. Well, there's so many different types of hair types and so many types of situations, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. I also use the analogy as over the years with private label and marketers that have come to me, they want a product that does everything. And I think back of the old days when, Barbara, you're one of the few people that remembers Bill Marshall, the founder of Best Shot, vaguely. You had some run-ins with him. That's another story.
Dances, as we call it.
Yeah.
We had a few dances.
Yep. But when he had 3 products, he sold it as a system to save time. But if you come to the booth and you're looking for a whitener and he doesn't have a quote whitener, well, of course his product's going to brighten and whiten to some extent. You're cleaning the dog. So he's trying to sell it and make it work for everybody. And that's what happened to WEN. You can't do that. And that's the difference between 35 years ago, we had 3 products. I couldn't tell you how many off the top of my head we have now. But we're trying to appeal to different markets. And it's like what we talked about with fragrances and other things. There's different segments and there's different coat types and different systems. And close, open, close, in other words, conditioning, there's a place for it. Where it's a problem is when people assume, oh yeah, this is great. They have great results because, again, now they're using 2 conditioners and it's all about conditioners. And then in their mind, they're set, this is great for everybody. And that's a problem. As professionals, we need to be different.
I hated it. I tried conditioning my hair, then washing my hair, then conditioning my hair, and it was yucky. It never really got clean or felt clean. And I am all about economics of motion. I'm not necessarily cheap, but I am cheap in my time. And I don't want to do an extra step. I especially don't want to do an extra step in a mobile. But let's talk about the process. Like, for instance, do you use the same conditioner at the beginning and the end, or do you use 2 different products if you wanted to do this? What would be your choice?
I actually, and see, that's another problem with the acronyms because it closes one's mind. People don't realize that spray and leave-in conditioners, hair holds, all of these things like that, gels, those are all classified as conditioners. In a professional grooming salon, since you're using this wonderful thing called a force dryer, you can do some amazing things with a spray and leave-in after you've shampooed and I call it deep conditioning. Let's use an old school term, a cream rinse. I use that term differently because it suggests you rinse it out. And then you follow up with the spray. And what the spray does is it actually kind of seals the deal, extends how long those cuticles will stay closed, because you don't want to be having cuticles opening up again and blow drying it. Then you got a staticky mess. And then when you go to finish the dog, you're going to be fighting yourself. So I like a lot of the spray and leave-in type conditioners. They can really do some things, and I call it sealing the deal. There's lots of products out there, but I just don't always think certain companies know what they have exactly, but there's lots out there.
I'm all for washing, conditioning, and conditioning. It's conditioning and washing and conditioning that I just am not on board.
And the conditioner that I believe they're referring to is some sort of spray and leave-in at the end.
Okay.
That works very well.
I think that it's reckless to guide people to use any conditioner and any shampoo, because there are things that can happen between conditioners and shampoos that can end up leaving an icky residue in the coat.
Good point.
Like hard water does.
Mhm.
So you don't want to use just your favorite conditioner before and after some other favorite shampoo, because you don't know if those two are compatible or not. There's none of us that are cosmetic scientists to the point that we can just look at an ingredient list, which we can't get anyway, and know if the products are compatible. The Best Shot system works because it's the Best Shot system.
Yep.
It's been formulated to work together. You just don't want because these days we don't know what's in the shampoos anymore. There's more cationic conditioners in shampoos than there used to be in conditioners when I started grooming. And you add these cationics to the anionic cleanser, and you can have yucky residue that makes it look like the dog's got some kind of a dandruff problem.
And to your point, funny little story. I'll keep it real short. So I'm out and about. I'm in Louisville, staying at a hotel for the dog show. I use the Best Shot Holding Here spray, and it's light, and whatever. But we got in early, took a hot shower, and I'm looking at the conditioner, and I figure I'm going to condition first. I swear to God, this is a true story. And I put it on really heavy. I had hairspray already in my hair. I was pulling out little gummies.
Ew.
From my hair, from the conditioner. And I couldn't tell you what was in the conditioner that I used. I kind of did my own experiment. So I ended up doing a condition shampoo to get all that out of my hair.
Shampoo.
Yeah. But as you were saying that, I'm thinking Barbara speaks the truth. That's exactly what can happen. Shame on me. So even I do stupid things.
We all do.
If you feel the need to use this conditioning first system, then stick with the conditioner and a shampoo that are at least from the same manufacturer, maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And you would want to use a conditioner that has fewer rather than more ingredients, because these products that have over 25 ingredients, 25 to 50 ingredients, too many things can happen.
There's two reasons why you do that. You're trying to differentiate yourself from everybody else, and you're creating a narrative and branding. When you're going for results, you find the products that are performance products. So if you look at a race car or a dragster, it's an engine with a set of wheels. I mean, they strip that puppy down. The performance products, human, dog, whatever, depending on their task, they're pretty bare bones with key ingredients. You get what you pay for there. I think what happens is, as professionals, we see products that are marketed very intricately, but they may be trying to market more so to a consumer. And there's a big difference between consumer product and professional.
Except that professional groomers are often uneducated consumers.
Yep.
It's unfortunate that we don't have more discriminative education that teaches about ingredients. I don't want to brag on myself, but my book ought to be used in every school.
Yeah.
Really should be teaching groomers more about knowledge of product ingredients and what is a cationic and what is an ionic and so on and so forth, and giving them a little stronger foundation. So because groomers are not well educated in the ingredients that we're working with, marketers take advantage of us.
Yes. I see it every day.
That was quick answer,
I see
Dave.
it every day. But you know why the answer is quick? At the end of the day, anybody who knows me, and as your listeners who've followed me, they know sometimes you can't shut this guy up. I can talk and talk and talk and talk. If somebody comes by the booth, so it's so much easier to give a marketing line of bullshit. Boom, here you go, and they buy it. And then you got me asking questions, and what are you trying to do, and teaching them and trying to set them up. And not everybody has the patience because they just want to buy. They just want magic in a bottle. They don't want to deal with it. I get that, but if you're a professional, great grooming starts in the tub. Yeah, you know me and my slogans.
It's true.
But there's truth to it.
It's true.
And what you put on a dog, when I do seminars, I don't call it bathing. I call it pre-treating the coat because I'm trying to get people to look at it differently because everybody is get them in the tub, get them dry, get them on the table, get them out the door.
I know they hire kids to do the bath and dry. Oh, I'm shouting.
That's often a problem.
They hire kids on summer break to do their bathing and their prep, and then wonder why they're not leading in the community in their grooming, because everything starts in the tub. And if you don't teach the bathers how to do it right, you're just asking for shipshod work.
Yep. And I'll make a quick statement, and I can't verify it, but I know I'm probably not far off. You go back 30 years ago, I'm going to say 80% of the people, the groomers, did not use a conditioner.
They didn't use conditioners when I started. I had to teach the people at my show kennel, where I was hired to be a bather. I had to teach them about conditioner because it so happened that my mom and I showed Lhasa Apsos before I became a bather. And I know about that. I had to bring it in and show them the difference.
And today, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say, this is positive. 60% of the people are using conditioners, but that means 40% aren't. Of that 60%, the big question mark is how many of them know what the heck they're doing? It's not a criticism. Again, that's just reality, you know, and it doesn't take much. It just, if they know some fundamentals, and I agree with you about your book. I think you got a beautiful book. As a matter of fact, I recently saw the beautiful cover on your new edition.
The latest printing.
So it's definitely something you want to put on the coffee table.
Covered by Dave Campanella, I might say. Well, listen, I appreciate you kind of upping. You know, you write a book and you create a cover, and it's so much you that you don't realize how it could be better. And I was so attached to my sort of cartoonish cover because I thought it was cute and it would appeal to groomers. But nowadays it looks more encyclopedic, which means it reflects the idea of knowledge.
That's right.
You're a master, Dave. You are a master marketer, and I bow to you.
Just remember, when Best Shots started, they had silkscreen bottles with Betsy and Shotzi on the bottles, 2 little cartoons and lots of bubbles. So we had to change too.
Plus, they were hiding their silicone.
Yes, yes.
That's what the dancing around the original.
Back then, it was ancient Chinese secret.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's people want to know. They want transparency, and that's important. And it needs to be better. We're all getting there.
Can I ask you a tangent question that has nothing to do with what we've been talking about? Barbara and I would love to see the plastic bottles, the jugs go by the wayside with something like a powder or a liquid pod or something like that. Do you think that will ever actually happen in this industry?
Okay, so you're talking about two things. You're talking about packaging
Yeah.
and you're talking about product. Now, as far as powdered product and things like that, that's a nightmare because as soon as you get the consumers involved, you get into the, oh, more is better. And then people start mixing and then you got all sorts of issues. So it comes down to packaging. And when I go to some of the trade shows like the Global Pet Expo, and when I walk the rest of Super Zoo, which is out when I get out of the grooming area and walk amongst there, you're starting to see some new options coming. And I think we're going to get there. But the key of it is there's some options out there already. They're a bit costly, I think, for our industry and the volumes we're doing. When you're getting into the Coca-Cola volumes, the tens of millions, it's a little different compared to the tens of thousands. But I think we're going to get there.
That makes sense.
And then the other thing I saw that was interesting is people really liked some of these detergent companies got clever, and you can turn the bottles on the side and they got a tap,
a spout,
spout. Yeah. Those are we're starting to see more and more generic versions of that, creative packaging there. But some of these pouches, I think you're referring to pouches and and even some of the recyclable and earth friendly type of things, we're getting there. We got a little ways to come. I have to tip my hat to years ago, and you might recall the folks at Tropiclean had come out with a bottle that was, eco-friendly. The only problem at the time is if they were sitting in a hot warehouse for too long, they were failing. And against them, I give them a lot of credit for taking the initiative and being the pioneer. They took a lot of arrows as a pioneer of that one. But the technology is getting there. It's just a matter of time. I've seen some interesting things. We're just not quite there yet, in my opinion.
That would make us happy.
And the thing that I had with Tropiclean is that they made a green bottle, but they didn't green up their ingredients. They didn't clean up what was going on the inside.
I didn't mean to set them up. I'm actually giving them a little bit of credit for taking the initiative on it. I also like these pouches too, because I can get these pouches and when you ship them, they're flat. Right now, when you ship bottles, it takes up a lot of space.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wasted airspace because you got all these bottles. So the pouches are very, very appealing. And I think, people are going to get there. I just couldn't tell you anytime soon when, but it will happen. It will happen.
I hope it happens in my lifetime.
Yes.
Because I really want to see our industry not be such a participant in the plasticizing of the planet.
No, I agree with you there. And I hope I see it in my lifetime too, but I'm not holding my breath. because sometimes they disappoint. They come up with some good ideas, but then when you do the math, it doesn't make sense.
The compostable spoons and forks, if you put them in soup or hot spaghetti or whatever, they just melt away. So there's some work to be done, that's for sure. But I like the effort, and I hate stupid plastic bottles.
But if they put protein in the forks and the spoons, it's like eating noodles.
That's right. That's right. Okay, thank you, Dave, for being here. We cannot really express how grateful we are to have our secret marketer in the building and also the representative for Best Shot for us. And we appreciate you guys.
It's always fun. We appreciate you guys, and anytime there's an opportunity for it. But I think what you guys are doing is great. I think it's timeless, and more people need to hear about you. And I don't know if you saw, I'm going to have to send you our current catalog. It's our 35th year, and there's a couple plugs for the GroomPod in our catalog.
I have it right here somewhere, but I can't see it right off the bat. But yes, it's beautiful, and it made my heart swell.
Guys are a big part, and Best Shot's identity is all about knowledge and education, and it ties in with what you're doing. So we were happy to plug you a couple times in our catalog.
So cool. All right. Well, thanks for being here, everybody. Remember to support our sponsors, especially Best Shot, because they took the time to come here today. So we appreciate all of our sponsors. And there's a blog page up on the website now. And there's one article about sniff and another article about lavender and still another article about dematting. And Barbara is going to give me another article this week. Happy grooming, everybody. See you next time on the GroomPod. Bye-bye now.
Bye, everybody.
Take care of yourselves because we love you.